Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of So How'd You Get Here? I'm Angelo. This is Tony.
Hello, hello.
How y'all doing today? This podcast is where we dive in. If you're tuning in for the first time, let me back that up.
Yeah, back it up.
If you're tuning in for the first time to So How'd You Get Here? We are a podcast. This is a podcast where we dive into people's backstories, and we get a peek behind the curtain and kind of see the choices that people have made that have kind of helped them break through or succeed in their area of expertise. And today, we're going to be hearing from a good friend of mine.
Good friend of ours, by the way.
No,
Thanks.
he's mine. He's more my friend than he is.
Stop.
I saw him first.
You did see him first.
Okay. All right. Well, this is a guy who has so many credits, I can't even list them all. So I'll just list a few. Third Rock, Seinfeld. I believe you did a little acting on Knocked Up. Will and Grace. You've taught. You've done Groundlings. I'd like to welcome to the show my good friend, very talented actor, Mr. TIM Bagley.
Thank you. It's good to see you. I love that of all the credits that I had, the first one you mentioned was Third Rock from the Sun, which was like an old, I mean, that was like a, when was that? That was like in the 90s.
So that Joseph Gordon-Levitt, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying
mid-90s.
I want to show how long
and
you've been great at what you do.
Oh, that's, okay, I get it.
It's a long career for a 29-year-old to have. So
I had somebody once introduce me. You might know, and this was like a couple years ago, you might know him from The Mask. And then,
oh, that's right. You had,
and then,
that was like one of the first movies you ever did.
Yeah.
We're going to talk
and
about
I just
that.
And I thought, wow, like that's interesting. That's what you would use to introduce me with.
Well, if you're in a movie that made over like $200 million, then yeah, you're from The Mask.
Okay, fair
Yeah.
enough.
How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm glad you're here, and I'm excited to get you going on our podcast here.
Yeah.
I know you play all quiet and polite, but you just need a little poking, and then apparently you just come alive. So
Poke away.
Poke away. Where should we start? So since it is So How'd You Get Here? Born and raised in the Midwest, Minnesota or something?
Yeah,
you're from a cold state.
Yeah.
I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Kind of grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and then Niles, Michigan, and then
Your family really liked the cold.
yes,
Yeah.
and then all through that, the consistent place that we've always kind of gone to in the summers and everything is Trempealeau, Wisconsin, and that's where a lot of my family is now.
Oh, okay.
So when I go back home now, it's Trempealeau, Wisconsin.
So from Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, how did you end up in California?
I left Niles, Michigan right after high school, and I moved out to California, and I went. My parents wanted me to go to University of Michigan, but I wanted to be in entertainment somehow, but I didn't really know what I wanted to do or anything like that. So I found out back then there were free colleges in California, state universities. So I told my parents.
For out-of-state residents, it was still free?
Well, I had to, stay here for I think a year
okay.
before I got the free school. But I went to Cal State Fullerton, and I studied psychology and art, and then, kind of took a couple acting classes and a dance class. And
What kind of dance?
it was back then. It was jazz and ballet. I think I took a ballet class and a jazz ballet. There was no hip hop or anything like that.
For those of you watching,
alluding to.
For those of you watching on YouTube, we will pull up clips of you doing
Is there any
jazz.
footage of this?
So I don't know if there's footage. I know that right after college, well, when I went to school, I was singing and dancing at Disneyland in a show called Kids of the Kingdom with this group, Kids of the Kingdom. It was all that kind of like.
You were a performer at Disneyland?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
just now learning this about
Yeah.
you.
By the way,
Yeah.
that was not in our notes.
That was not in any
so
notes. I couldn't find
Inside
that anywhere.
scoop.
Yeah, I moved out here actually to be with a group called the Young Americans, which was like a little song and dance group, and I had auditioned in Petoskey, Michigan, and I wanted to do that, but my parents wanted me to go to University of Michigan, and once I found out that there was free schooling out here, my parents were like, okay, let's explore this a little more, and so I moved out and went to Cal State Fullerton, and studied. But I was still a little afraid to get into the business, but I was, studying it and, doing elective classes there. And then meanwhile, singing at a club called Baxter Street in Newport Beach, like top 40 stuff. And then working.
Like in a group or solo?
Well, there were like 4 singers, and we would do some group numbers, but mostly solo.
Interesting.
And I had never really done that before, so that was really kind of scary.
Baritone, soprano, tenor?
Well, not soprano, but tenor, mostly baritone.
I was really hoping you said.
But I do have a good falsetto, but never mind. No, but
so Angelo, he was the Justin Timberlake.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
Before Justin Timberlake.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
it
that's
was.
actually his.
He
Instagram
sang.
handle.
He sang in Newport. He literally worked for Disney.
I
he's a
mean-
bit, you're like the Mickey Mouse Club.
But you know what? It was Kids of the Kingdom. But one thing that I remember about that was I was terrified the first night I had to sing at the club and do solos. And I'd never, done a whole solo. And I had to do 4 songs that first night. And I remember I was terrified. And I went down to Laguna Beach and I sat on in the sand and was looking at the ocean. And I just thought, I was terrified. I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I just thought, I will get through this and I will figure it out. And in order to kind of start this process, I'm going to have to take some really uncomfortable risks.
Since you were so terrified, what were the 4 songs you sang?
I sang God Bless the Child. I sang a Bobby Womack song, and I don't remember what it was. I sang Peg, and I sang, and this was a long time ago. Let's see, what else did I sing?
This is back in 2010.
This was 1909. This building was nothing but orange groves.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't remember what the 4th song was. Probably a Beatles song or something. I don't
Okay.
remember. But it was kind of, it was whatever. I don't remember. There were songs that I kind of knew. Oh, no. I sang a Stevie Wonder song, You and I.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a little of that?
No.
No. Oh.
Are you sure?
you
You're
sure?
Like, we have time if you
I
want
mean,
to, hit
No,
8
I
bars,
don't.
16 bars.
No?
Do
No?
a kickball
Nothing?
change, anything
No.
like that? No,
No.
nothing.
All right.
No dancing, no singing.
Okay.
Those days are
So
behind
your
you.
singing career
Yeah, you can cut all that out.
didn't take off.
I feel like we missed a little bit there in the beginning. Like I get moving out here, but I want to go in high school. What was the first kernel of, hey, maybe I want to do that? Did you see someone perform? Did you see a play? Was there something in comedy? Was there a group that came and performed at your school that said, hey, I like that. I might like it. Or did it just click on one day at 18 and you moved out to LA?
I grew up liking music. I loved like Stevie Wonder and Diana Ross and the people that were kind of big back then when I was kind of growing up. A lot of Motown stuff. I wasn't into like musical theater. I auditioned for my high school play and I had a great time, but it was Hello Dolly and I was a dancing waiter. So I didn't really.
How did you prepare for this role?
I just did what they told me.
Okay.
But I auditioned.
So you took direction well.
But my
Got it.
point is that, like, I wasn't really. I wanted to do more of that stuff when I was younger, but I wasn't
You didn't have
really
the confidence.
welcomed.
You didn't have the confidence.
I didn't have the confidence, but also I wasn't really welcomed into that. Our musical director was a man named Mr. Hamburger, and he was one of these
Did you just
guys.
make up that name right
No,
now?
that
That's
was
really
his
his name?
And his wife's name, she taught French, and she was Madame Hambrosier.
Sounds better in French every time.
And he did not like me, and I know what it was linked up to, but he was not welcoming to me, and I didn't get into our big choir until the last section of my senior year. And I know that it was connected to when I was younger and studying with Madame Hambrosier. I needed to go to the bathroom, and I was feeling nauseous, and she was ignoring me, and so I threw up on her desk. And I think that the Hamburger family held that against me during my high school career.
I
But,
can't believe how many times you say Ambrosia with a straight face. Like, I can't do it.
It's what
talent.
it is. It's what it is. And then Mrs. Ferguson was the director of our little group, and I got to do Godspell at my church, and I got to do, like I was in a mime troupe, but when I would audition for the plays, I didn't get into a lot of the plays. I did get to play Max in The Sound of Music in high school, and I got to play something in The Miracle Worker, like a psychiatrist or something at Tewksbury, and I had one little teeny tiny scene. But other than that, I auditioned for everything and got in, nothing. But I think that because I didn't get into it and I wanted it, that's one of the things that drove me out to, like I often have thought, what if I had just been led into that world in high school? I probably would have gotten it all out of my system.
And you would have majored in finance at Michigan.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Right.
Like my mother wanted.
Right.
No, that's good, because a lot of people just experience rejection right out of the gate. It's not easy. I mean, there's a few people that are walk-on athletes, I guess, but a lot of people have to fight their way through. And what I've been hearing with multiple people speaking is, I had very little, a few signs here and there that said, hey, I should go in this direction, but a lot of stuff in my way.
Yeah, there's always been, blocks and barricades, and I just kind of always find a way to go around it and figure it out. If it's something I really am driven to do, I just do it. I figure out a way to do it, and in spite of those obstacles, whether it be Mr. Hamburger or Mrs. Ferguson or, somebody else.
Hamburger.
Madame Hamburger. Well, I was done with her after the 7th grade.
After you threw up on her desk.
After I threw up.
That was your final statement.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I wanted a new life, and I knew I didn't want it in Michigan. I didn't like the snow. I liked the idea of California, and I was looking at either Los Angeles, San Francisco, or New York City, and New York had snow. San Francisco seemed like, I didn't know how to do that. And I felt like, if I went to San Francisco, this is, the truth. I felt like if I went to San Francisco, my parents would know that I was gay, and I was still trying to not, I was trying not to be, for a long time early on. And so I went to Los Angeles, and here's an interesting transition from after college, my first kind of job outside of college. I was working in college at Disneyland, singing and dancing and being with the Young Americans.
God, you're a lot cooler.
Well, wait till for this one.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
I started dancing with Mitzi Gaynor for a year. And Mitzi Gaynor was an old kind of movie star. She was in movies like There's No Business Like Show Business and South Pacific and things like that. And she did like an act with 8 dancing guys. And I got this job right after, taking a couple of dance classes in college. And so I toured dancing for a year, but all the other dancers were like, they grew up studying dance, and they were really good.
Couple classes.
And I took a couple classes, but had the confidence to go to this audition and just do it. And then, she had me sing some stuff too, but, I was dancing. And after a year of that, I thought, this is actually a skill, and I don't have it. And I thought, why don't I take some acting classes? Because I thought, I don't want to continue dancing. And I was getting more and more interested in acting. And so I started my first class after a year with Mitzi was with Gordon Hunt. And he was the casting director at Mark Taper Forum at the time. And he was teaching a private class. And in that class was Helen Hunt and his daughter. And one of my good friends was in the class was a woman named Zelda Rubinstein, who got into Poltergeist, the movie Poltergeist. She was a little person that said, Carol Ann, stay away from the light, or go towards the light, or something like that. And she and I became very good friends, and we were lifelong friends. And she died several years ago, but But I remember she was the first person that I saw that was a contemporary go from just like me, a regular person in class, to suddenly she got this job in a Steven Spielberg film, and she got an agent and started working and doing all that.
And Helen had not kind of blown up. And
She was working as a young child actress, but she was in this class, learning the technique
skill, yeah.
and the skill. And
So that must have given you a lot of confidence seeing a friend
yeah,
show you that one role you
yeah.
can really break out.
And I remember thinking, well, if she could do this, maybe I could do this. And so I've always thought that it's important, for people to take classes and do all that, because you meet contemporaries and you see people achieve and go on, and there's no reason why that can't be you.
Right.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that you didn't really even take an acting class in college.
I did. I
you
took 2
did?
acting
Oh, okay.
classes. I took 2, and that was enough for me to be like, ooh, I like this.
Yeah.
I really like this.
Planted the seed a little bit more.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then with Gordon Hunt, I studied with Gordon Hunt for a while, and then I went through a series of teachers, but I found my way to the Groundlings, and that's like an improv comedy school. And I went through the school and got into the company and did that for 5 years.
Was anyone at the Groundlings while you were there that became
A lot of people.
a lot of people?
Yeah, a lot of people. I mean, I went through the school with Lisa Kudrow, and in my group were people like Mike Hitchcock, Jennifer Coolidge,
wow.
Lisa Kudrow,
So
Will
again,
Ferrell,
other
Sherry
contemporaries
O'Terry.
that like,
Yeah,
we're getting
Yeah.
tons of work.
yeah. And so, we were all kind of figuring this out together, and there were, one person would, I don't know, it was just always helpful. Like I remember Coolidge one time being on the set of Best in Show.
One of my favorite movies.
And calling, and there was something she was concerned about, and we talked about it, and I don't know, just having those relationships with friends and contemporaries has been everything to me. For me to call people and say, I've got to go do this, and I'm nervous. How do I do this? Kathy Griffin was in the group with me as well, and I remember she kind of took me, and she was like, you're a good storyteller. You should do stand-up comedy. And I thought, no, I was too scary for me. But she was doing an alternative comedy thing at the time with a lot of comedians. And as long as I knew I didn't have to write jokes and be like a stand-up comic, I would go and do the storytelling at a thing called Uncabaret. And I still do that sometimes.
So with Gordon Hunt, you were learning more of a technique
Yes.
and a skill, and that was more dramatic acting?
Well, it was all different kinds of acting, but it was the skill of, learning how to be honest and authentic and use yourself and your real emotions and all that kind of stuff.
Was the Groundlings really your first kind of improv?
No, I took a class. My first improv class was with a man named Paul Sills at the Mark Taper Forum. And his mother was Viola Spolin, who was kind of the founder, and she literally wrote the book on improv.
Oh, wow.
And he was a part of Second City, and he was out teaching one summer, and I took that class and just really loved the art form. And at the time, I was studying with a woman named Nina Foch, who was an actress who was teaching, and she would give me assignments. And I remember saying to her, Nina, I don't feel like a king, and she would say, well, you just have to make yourself believe that you can do this. And so she said, maybe you need like an improv class where you can just throw yourself into it where you don't have time. So she was the one that kind of suggested I go to the Groundlings.
But I think that's really important for people that are listening and watching, that you literally took whatever classes, like you just took everything.
I still do.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, which is an interesting thing to bring back, is that currently, right now, during the pandemic, I've been studying with Helen Hunt. Her father passed away, and she's been teaching his class. And I ran into her, and she was like, yeah, I've been teaching my dad's class. And I was like, I'd love to work on some stuff in there with you, because she's learned so much since those early days when we were in our, like early 20s, or we were 19 or 20 or something like that. I think we were probably 20, 21, something like that. And
was this a one-on-one thing, like a Zoom thing, or is it just like a group of people?
It's Zoom, but it's a class, a group of like maybe 12 people, and they do it on Zoom right now.
Right.
But when they can meet up, they will. But I've been using this time to try ways that I use class to stretch in ways that I am not cast. Like the last thing that I worked on was To Kill a Mockingbird, Atticus Finch, the Aaron Sorkin big monologue at the end of the play, and I do things like that I know that people that know me would think, why would you do that? But to me, it's learning how to stretch myself in ways emotionally and in character, so that when something comes up where I get to audition to be a lawyer, I've been in those shoes and I have a sense of that, so that it's not, foreign to me.
And then next week you're going to do Joe Pesci from Goodfellas.
No, I mean, right now, the scene that I'm working on, it's crazy for people that know what I do, but I'm doing a scene from Ocean's 11 where this,
are you
very
Pitt,
funny.
Are you Pitt or Clooney?
I'm Clooney.
Well,
I'm
duh.
Clooney.
Why'd
But
you even ask that question?
But
Tony? That's
he's the
obvious.
leader. He's the leader.
All right, Danny
And
Ocean.
so,
relax.
so the thing is that I know it sounds insane, but to me, it's what the thing about Brad Pitt and George Clooney in those things is they're so confident, in everything about themselves. And so I thought, well, this will be an interesting opportunity for me to work on confidence in what I look like, in my in my power, all that kind of stuff. So I use class for stuff like that, which to regular people it sounds insane, but it's a way that I can stretch myself.
We're
as
in
an
the
actor.
entertainment business.
We understand what
not
you're saying,
regular
but
at all. We all are a little broken.
Super
to do
weird.
this.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
broken. I mean, during the pandemic, everybody else is, I'm sure, writing things and creating things, and I'm go back to the basics, and am taking acting classes to stretch
also
myself.
at your level, you're going to get cast probably pretty consistently for what people already know you do.
Right.
So I feel like you can get a little stagnant in some of those things that stretch you more. Now's the time to do that.
Yeah, but that's why also I'm always doing plays and stuff, and I know you helped
Smart.
me when I was doing
That was a long monologue. That was the
Vanya,
longest
Sonia,
monologue I've ever heard.
Masha, and Spike at South Coast Rep, and you helped me before my first day of rehearsal. You helped me. It was like a 8-page monologue.
Yeah, it was long. It was long.
You never told me that you worked
I
on.
don't tell you
No,
everything.
hold on.
You don't need to know everything.
Listen, you worked on a monologue with George Clooney. You didn't tell me.
No.
But yeah, so to me, I always feel like as an actor, it's kind of my responsibility to make sure that when opportunities come up for me in a dramatic situation or in some kind of character that is different than how I'm usually cast, I can deliver it. Because I remember one time Keanu Reeves was talking about how he had never done Shakespeare before, and then he was in this Shakespeare movie, and I forget which one it was, but I remember seeing it and thinking, I want to make sure that I do Shakespeare so that if I get that opportunity, I don't look like Keanu Reeves in that movie.
Got it.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No.
No shade on Keanu Reeves, but so I just think that for me,
You want to be well-rounded and prepared in all aspects, just in case the opportunity arises.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
because there are always obstacles. Like I remember when I did Grimm, the only reason I did Grimm, I got to do it.
The TV show.
The TV show was because Sean Hayes and Todd Milliner produced it, and it was the pilot episode, and I was playing like a wolf. I was playing
So you
like
were in
an evil
makeup and character.
evil guy.
Yeah.
An evil guy. And I just remember the casting people, like everybody at the network was against me doing it. And they had me come in and audition like
Because
3
they
or
saw
4
you as
times.
the funny guy.
They said, he's funny. It'll take people out of it. And Sean kept saying things like, well, what about Robin Williams in
Right.
Good Will Hunting.
and, and then finally, he they worked it out so that I could do it. And those kinds of opportunities are very rare. And again, when you get that kind of opportunity, I want to be prepared to step into it fully.
So, comment question. It seems like they wouldn't let you in for some reasons, and then once you got in, they wouldn't let you out of that pigeonhole of whatever. It's is that right?
Wait, I don't say that again
Let me back
because
up.
I didn't know what you meant.
So
It was really
when
like
you were first
looking at a
starting
crazy
out,
person.
no one would let you. I am a crazy person.
It was like listening
use-
to the sound of crazy.
I'll use smaller words. Don't
Okay,
worry about it.
thank
Here
you.
we go. So when you're first breaking in or starting to make a go at acting, you got a lot of no, he's not right. I'm not letting him in. He doesn't fit the mold. And then once you finally start to make it, then you're locked into that mold and you can't even seem to break out of that.
Well, I mean,
At some level.
I do think that it's an actor's responsibility to figure out how to keep doing things and keep it going on. And you know, like I've had so many opportunities to do so many different kinds of things, and I really am grateful for the longevity and the opportunities that I've been given in that way. But I also think that it's my opportunity or my responsibility to keep stretching and growing in ways so that when another opportunity comes up,
Right,
I can show another side, another surprise. And so I'm not just doing the same thing the entire
Playing
time.
that same note all the time.
Right.
No, you want
Yeah.
different tools in your toolbox. I
Yeah.
get it. And my question from something you said a couple minutes ago was, I know you said you did not really have any interest in stand-up.
No,
But even though you're funny and I've seen your work, Groundlings. You've taught at Howard, fine, which is where we met.
and at the Groundlings, and yeah, right.
Is there a reason that you've never really kind of?
Do you not like to write
I
your
could
own
tell from your
jokes?
face.
No,
that
no,
you-
no. It's an interesting question, and the truth is just fear. And so what's actually I'm obsessed with stand-up comics. I go to comedy clubs all the time to look at stand-up comics. I love it. I absolutely love it.
'Cause you're
But
funny, man.
Along with that is a huge fear. And right before the pandemic, I was actually taking a class in stand-up comedy, and you know, I went to like 2 or 3 clubs and tried a set, and I'm doing it kind of with a buddy of mine. Kind of doing it with
See,
a
I
buddy
can
of
be
mine.
funny too.
I see that. But you know, I've been doing it with a buddy of mine so that it's so scary, and it's something that both of us have wanted to try to do. And so I go out and I've been doing that. And again, that feeds into my theory that as an actor, you have to always try to go into areas
Where you're
that are
afraid.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where you're afraid, because the more you are able to kind of be in that place of fear and not
deal
knowing
with it and know you're going to survive.
and know you're going to survive, you know, you can go and do it. But I mean, I started out as a really shy, kind of scared person.
Well, that's the thing that, and no, all jokes aside, I mean, we interviewed Dana Carvey a couple weeks ago, and he said
Brilliant.
the same thing. He was just terrified at first, and then he bombed, and then he failed, and then the fear went down a little bit, and then he tried some more. And it seems like a lot of people we continually talk with, even at the confident George Clooney, Ocean's
Right.
11 level,
Right.
all started at some level afraid.
Right.
When you got your first kind of, I don't know, role, maybe early mid 90s, did you feel like you kind of made it? Or you're like, oh,
No, I never have felt that way.
never.
I still don't feel that way.
And that
My
and that's
first
the drive that keeps you going because you don't think you've made it?
the drive that keeps me going really is not that I don't feel that. It's really more I want to become better at what I'm doing. I love the process of acting, and I want to become better at it. So that's what kind of drives me and keeps me going forward.
So you're in love with the process.
I am.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love doing
So
it.
whether you got the role or not, you still just
I
kinda
walk-
keep, yeah.
I walk out of that audition feeling like I got to play that. Whether or not I get to do it in front of a camera or on stage, if I don't get it, at least I got to play it in that moment. And so
Which I'm assuming keeps you from getting bitter in a real way.
yeah, I'm not bitter about it. I also think that, but also I work kind of pretty consistently so
Yeah, you
that
do.
Yeah.
so that I don't know. I'm not really bitter about it. I don't feel a sense of bitterness about anything. And with friends that, that shine, I feel more of a connection with them, and like I'm a part of their success. If somebody, that, takes off in a big way,
Well,
I don't
we
know.
always
I
talk
always
about
feel
this too,
proud.
because we have friends that have gone on and done films and movies or become directors, and we're like, more power to you. Like, I'm happy that you're making it.
And you learn
Like,
from
yeah.
them, and having them in your camp and in your corner, it's like you learn from them. And I don't know, I've got, I've really got a lot of great friends that have gone on and done amazing things, and I love feeling like I'm a part of that.
That's awesome. So when we were doing some research on you, we said, like, I think you brought this up earlier when we were off camera, but in '94 it says one of your first roles was in The Mask,
Yes.
and you played Irv the mechanic.
Yes, I did.
And what was that like working with Jim? Because that was like the height of Jim Carrey at the time. Like mid '90s
Well-
was like when he was on fire.
Well, the thing about that is that he was on a show called In Living Color.
Right, one of my favorites.
And he had shot, what was the UPS?
Ace Ventura?
guy? Ace Ventura.
Right.
He had shot that, but it hadn't been released yet
Oh.
when we were shooting The Mask. And so while they were editing The Mask, Ace Ventura came out and was
And
a
blew
huge
up, yeah.
success. And so they kind of went back, and a lot of characters got cut. So I, was fortunate to stay in The Mask. They cut a couple scenes, but I had a lot of friends that were in it that just got cut completely. And then he became, a big deal after that. But I remember him, he was so ambitious, and so he had all these ideas, and he was talking about how he wanted to play somebody where he was the only real person and everything else was reality. And, he ended up making that movie. And
The Truman Show?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think
or Eternal... Oh, doesn't matter.
maybe
Doesn't
it was one.
Eternal
I just
Sunshine's
remember him
Spotless
describing this, and then me seeing the movie later and thinking, "Oh, this is what
What
he
he
was."
wanted to
yeah,
do.
and but I don't remember which movie it was. But he was just he was wonderful, and I just remember him very like high energy and really wanting to succeed, and I knew he would. I just knew he would.
You saw the drive.
Yeah.
He had that confidence just like oozing out of him.
And I was just like, oh, he's fantastic, but I'm going to go to the craft services table. I've always been at a different level. I was like, that's fantastic. Do they have donuts over there?
That's why we got into film, because craft service, which is now gone because of COVID.
I know.
Bummer.
But when you do see craft service, like, it's always kind of like, yeah, I don't want the dips.
Yeah. No. No.
I don't want to see a big bowl of shrimp.
What kind of movies were you working on? Shrimp?
So Angelo mentioned earlier a lot of your, you have way too many TV credits probably.
Yeah, I
in
can't
film
even read
to
through 'em.
even
It goes
like
forever
go through.
on IMDb.
But I mean, even like the big ones, like the Will and Graces. Now you're on Grace and Frankie, Seinfeld. Are there any shows that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe I got this show? Like,
Well, it's interesting. I always just look at it like work, but I mean, I loved when I was doing Monk with Tony Shalhoub. I just loved working with him. I learned a lot from him, and he made me feel, really good, and so I loved that experience. I remember when I was doing Will and Grace, I didn't think about it till I was up in San Francisco, and and it was like a year or two after I had started doing it, and some guy came, was like, Larry, and I was didn't know who he was talking to, and he came running towards me, and he goes, Larry, and he goes, you're Larry, right? And I said, no, I'm Tim. And he said, but you're Larry on Will and Grace. And I thought, oh, what's my character's name? And I thought,
the problem of an actor that works all the time.
and I go, oh, Larry and Joe, that's right. So I must be Larry. And I go, yeah, I'm Larry. And he said, I just want to tell you, my boyfriend, back then you couldn't get married or anything, but he goes, my boyfriend and I adopted a child, and we named her after your baby on Will and Grace. And I swear to you, to this day, I have no idea what my fake TV baby's name is. I really don't.
But that was very sweet.
Georgia Clooney.
No, but the thing is in that moment, I remember thinking, and he was emotional about it, and he was just like so happy to meet me and everything. And I remember thinking, wow, well, this is really working out well. And
when people recognize you by your character's name, yeah.
But I loved that. And so that was, something that I think meant a lot to my community. So I was always grateful that I got to do that. And, we got married. I think we were the first couple to get married on a TV show. On TV. First gay couple to get married on a TV show. And then we adopted a baby, and that show
was groundbreaking in a lot of ways.
And I think they brought us on to do those kinds of things because the network wouldn't really let them do that with the
four
leads.
The leads.
Right. So that was a real blessing, and I don't know. I've had a lot of wonderful experiences. I've loved working with Judd Apatow. It's always thrilling to work with him, and
was Knocked Up your first movie? Or first experience with him?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I was. Yeah,
I think we need to set up the scene, though.
Katherine Heigl.
Yes.
I'm a what's it called?
OBGYN.
Yeah, OBGYN.
And gynecologist, and I said something like, "Oh yeah, I can see, you look a lot like your sister," or something like that, and it stayed in the thing. But there were a lot of lines like that stayed in, and that's the fun about working with him is. He writes these brilliant scripts and then lets you play around and
which is where your other training comes in, the ability to improv, the ability to have done other things, like, you know what I mean?
I wish I worked more that way. Like so much of what I do is just scripted, and it's always thrilling for me to be able to improvise and do that. I love that. I wish I got to do more of that. But yeah, he was a joy to work with. I loved, I've been enjoying working on Grace and Frankie, Marta Kaufman's show. I mean, it's really, that's interesting because that character is just hideous and just awful. I mean, like there's nothing, and the
if you're
right
willing,
things,
would you be willing to give a little bit of how do you play an awful character?
I just
judging them.
I just have fun. I just have fun being awful.
Okay.
Because you're so not awful in real life.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
We know you're
I
a
don't
good guy.
know.
We know
I
you're a
don't
good guy.
know.
Come on,
I
we
mean,
know you.
Sure, I got some.
I mean,
I'll
I
tell
don't
you.
know.
I mean,
Yeah, this is we
you're
don't want to
blushing.
go
We know.
there.
We know.
No, but I think that I mean, there's nothing more fun than to look at somebody like Martin Sheen or Sam Waterston, and to tell Sam Waterston that he wasn't good enough to get in this stupid little play that we're doing, some dumb, production of a gay local community theater, and to tell Sam Waterston that he can't do it, or that Martin Sheen gets to be the lead in 1776 in our stupid thing, and to watch Martin Sheen jump up and down like he's really like. To me, it's just fun to work with these kinds of these iconic actors.
Since you have had such a long career and you do get a lot of shows and films, can you talk a little bit about the rejection and the shows that you haven't gotten and the casting offices that you have walked into and left and didn't feel good about that performance?
Yes. I really try to do my best in an audition so that when I leave, I know that I did what I wanted to do. It might not be what they want, but that's what I wanted to do. So I don't really feel bad when I leave an audition. I really work on it so that it's what I want to do. And then the example that I can give you, like a rejection thing, is, oh boy. Friends. First of all my friends, my personal friends, for years they banned me from talking about getting fired off Friends because I used to talk about it all the time to them.
Did you know who got fired off Friends?
I didn't
know. No, I was fired off. I was hired to play a character who was supposed to be the love interest for Lisa Kudrow and a health inspector, and it was supposed to recur for several episodes. And I got fired and I was told that they were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and it was devastating for me because I felt like that, Friends at the time was a huge show.
So you had booked it and shot a couple scenes?
No, we hadn't shot anything.
we haven't, okay.
It was a live in front of a studio audience. So I worked for 2 days with them, and then Marta Kaufman and David Crane and Kevin Bright came to the set, and they were like, "Thank you. You can call your agent." And
This isn't working.
And then Kevin Bright called me at home and said, this is, we're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. We love you, but, this is not working. And so then, long story short, years later, I really carried it around with me, and my friends were just like, "Tim, we cannot hear this anymore." And
that's when you knew you needed to let it go.
I mean, I really couldn't. I couldn't let it go. So the beauty of this story is that I then was hired years later to do a spin-off of a Friends character called Joey. And I, did it. And the whole week I was nervous I was going to be fired. And at the end of the week, I shot it. I did my bows in front of the live audience, and I was up in my dressing room, and Kevin Bright comes to the door, and he was just like, you were spectacular, and I've been such a fan of yours over the years, and thank you for doing this show. And I was like, thank you. This means so much to me, especially in light of our history. And he was like, "What history?" And I said, "Well, I'm talking about Friends." And he was like, "What about Friends?" And I said, "Well, I was fired." And he said, "Who fired you?" And I said, "You did." and he was like, "What was the role?" And I told him the role, and he said, "Oh, well, I remember that role." He said, "It was supposed to recur as a love interest for Lisa, and it was just poorly written. We kept cutting it down. We hired 2 or 3 actors. We kept, firing people, and it became smaller and smaller, and it was a one-time co-star. It ended up just being a few lines one time." And he said, "Yeah, the role didn't work. But all those years,
You thought
I
it was
carried
you.
around
it was
like...
you, yeah.
And it had nothing to do with you.
Yeah, and it had nothing to do with me. And then, like, in that same year, I got hired on David Crane's show, what's it called? Episodes. And I did that, and David Crane, we were all sitting there, and he was looking at me and laughing, and he goes, "I know that we've known each other forever, but I cannot remember where we met." And I was just like, I don't know. It feels like we have met. I don't know. And he goes, "Was it through Lisa Kudrow?" And I was like, maybe. And then a couple years after that is when I
Got invited to do something.
to do Grace and Frankie. And Marta Kaufman came up to me on the first day, and she goes, "We're so happy to have you. I've been, such a fan of yours, and thanks for doing this, and it's just a pleasure to meet you." And I said, "The pleasure is all mine." And it's one of those things where they've been wonderful, all 3 of them, and that what I could have learned had I been smarter back then is that it's got nothing to do with me, but they were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. And,
a hole that was not well written according to them.
I still think they could have tried to shove that square peg in harder. But that being said, I've worked with all of them, and none of them remembered it. Yeah. And it's just to me, a good lesson in you can't hang on to those disappointments. Right. But all I know is that, I remember saying, like, well, now I can let that go, and I don't ever have to think about it again because everybody has been so lovely to me, and it's behind me. And yet, I'm still talking about it.
Yeah. But in a positive way.
Yeah.
When my friends hear this, they're going to think, "Oh, Jesus."
No, I push back on that because that is actually something that you need to be armed with when you're out here. Otherwise, that's bitterness, that's resentment, that's, I thought somebody was terrible, you badmouth them, you gossip about them. They just let you go from a bad role. That's it.
No, but it's not. I don't want to say that. I mean, the truth is, I couldn't make it work, and and neither could the other actors that they hired. But I mean, to me, the big lesson is not to blame them.
Yes.
Right.
It's not to blame them. It's the way that I responded, thinking that there was something wrong with me. And I carried that around for a long time, feeling, like I wasn't good enough. And I remember when I did Joey, and when he came up to my dressing room, I remember him saying, yeah, people, we fired people all the time on that show. It was no big deal. And I was like, yeah, no, I know. I get it. And I remember acting like, yeah, sure, I know. And there is a part of you as an actor that wants to just be like that. But the truth is, disappointments sting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like you can't let it shut you down. You just have to figure out how to keep going.
No, that's a good lesson. And do you feel like now that you've learned that, it's a lot easier for you to let stuff go and move on? And
Absolutely.
Not let it bother you.
Absolutely.
Not drag around your past with you.
Absolutely.
That to me is worth telling that story.
And also, I've had so many friends call up and say, like, especially young people, young actors, when they call up and say that they've been fired and they're really upset. And I'm just like, you called the right person.
Let me tell you a story.
I tell you about the most popular show of all time.
Oh, wow.
But my friends,
Your close friends,
are literally like, Tim, we cannot hear that again. And it's kind of like, I literally remember I had 2 or 3 friends that banned me from talking about it. Like, they said, we
You
forbid
must have
it.
brought it up a lot.
It was hard for me to let go.
I think if you just tell the first half of that,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to hear it. But since you've figured out the second half, that actually makes it a really good story.
Oh, it's everything. I mean, to me, that's the way business is, and I couldn't hold it against any of them because they were wonderful. They've all been wonderful and generous to me since,
What about doing, because I feel like you work a lot in TV, pilots that you shot, that you've gotten, that haven't gotten picked up?
Yeah. Or that get picked up and last for 1 season.
Right.
And then they're gone. Yeah. There's been
Any of them,
a number
any
of
them
them.
that like people haven't heard of or seen that you thought were amazing? Like, I can't believe this didn't
All
get
of
picked
them.
up. All of them.
All of them. I mean, I've done so many pilots and so many things that haven't worked out.
George Clooney did a lot of pilots too.
Well, we have so much in common.
So much.
We're really interchangeable. But what I was going to say is, I remember I did a series with Wanda Sykes called Wanda Does It. And we were the only 2 series regulars. And it was for Comedy Central, and we shot a whole season of it. And I just knew that it was going to go, and that it was, I was so happy, and it was just magical, and I loved her and everybody in it, and that what we were doing. And after that season, Comedy Central didn't pick it up, and I was really devastated. And I remember kind of making a decision, a cognitive executive decision, that I would never let myself get hurt like that again in a pilot. And the good news is that to this day, Wanda's my best friend. Like, we still are very close, and so and that whole group of people, we get together, and there's still that same feeling and camaraderie and everything. But that was a really hard one for me. And there was one I remember with Sally Field called, it was about a Supreme Court justice, and I forget what it was called right now. But all these millions of dollars to build a set, and it was, this amazing cast, and I just thought, this is going to go. And we shot, I think, 6 episodes, and after the second one, they canceled it, but we had to still continue shooting the rest of the episodes, and everybody was so sad. And but
Is that because everyone's under contract? You have to shoot the 6?
yeah, we have to, we were hired to do this, and we had to shoot them. But like, when you are on a show that's not going, and it's just depressing. And we found out, I remember the network, this is a good lesson, the network, I remember, said, they didn't tell us. We found out by watching it on Entertainment Tonight, And then we all had to come back to work the next day, and it was like, we've been canceled. And I remember Sally Field saying, what you do is you never work for ABC again, and she was just like committed to that. And I remember thinking, I'm not Sally Field. I don't know that I can really commit to that. Right. But, and then several months later, she was doing Brothers and Sisters for ABC. And I just thought,
Key to the moment.
I just thought, it's like you can never hold a grudge or be bitter or anything like that. You just have to be open and know that some things work and some things don't.
Well, we had a casting director on recently, Claudia Lyon from CBS, but she was at ABC for a while. She emphasized collecting like the little victories, because you can get a show and it's successful, but then even if it's on for 6-7 years, you got to get still got to work after that. So like it's important just to collect like the little victories and not worry really about how negative all the rejection is going to be, because the town's full of rejection.
I think also what's good about that, what she said, is recognizing little successes is how you grow your self-esteem. Because a lot of times I think what happens is by the time I get to, by the time I achieve something that was a goal, I'm off onto the next goal, and I go like, oh, good, I did that. And it's kind of important to take the moment to go like, oh, I did this. This is something I wanted to do, and I did it. So I think that that's how we grow self-esteem to keep on climbing.
Well, Claudia said that. Carvey said something along collecting victories. Even what you're saying, it sounds like that's kind of part of the process, because it's gonna fail at some point. The show's gonna get canceled. You're not gonna get it. They're gonna go with somebody else. Maybe you get fired. You got to be able to recover from that. If that undoes you, you're not going to last.
That's right.
Right.
It's resiliency, and also figuring out how to not let it stop you. Like once you let it devastate you or stop you, then you have to figure out how to get past that if you're going to continue on. And I've seen so many people do like one big job where they're hugely famous, and then you just don't really hear from them again.
Right.
And I always think that I feel like I haven't even had that big job that, that's made me blow up yet. I feel like I've done a lot of little spectacular things that I'm very proud of and I'm grateful for. But, I haven't had that one thing yet that, puts me on the map that everybody knows me from, But then I also thought there's something kind of fantastic about being known for a lot of different things, because then it's like I've become a character actor and I'm not just, Jojo from Jojo and the Chimp. You know what I mean?
By the way, that's not out yet. Let's write a JoJo.
But you know what I mean?
Pilot.
You know what I mean?
Do you want to?
I mean, I could be JoJo and JoJo and the Chimp.
And Angelo can play Madame Hamburger.
Oh, he'd be a fantastic.
I mean, I think so.
Scary.
I do look good.
And then there's a dance. And then there's a dance number in the middle. I'll play the chimp.
No, we want a real chimp.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah, but
you can be the guy that cleans the chimp's cage at the zoo.
Since you've worked with people like Judd Apatow, and you love comedy, and you're really good at improv, have you ever wanted to write a TV show?
I do write.
Or write a feature film?
I've written 3 screenplays. None of them have sold.
Okay.
I've written 3 one-person shows, and they've all done well. And I've had a lot of accolades, and all that's great. I've tried to do
that are already out there that you've performed.
That I've performed, and then I have written for 2 of them. Tried to write them as a pilot to sell like that. And I just have never been able to sell anything. It's hard. To me, it's a miracle whenever somebody sells something.
You just need that one, I feel like, and then you sell like 15 things.
Yeah, but I also think for me, what's happened is I used writing to kind of write for myself, and so I've always kind of done it, but I've worked enough as an actor where I think that sometimes some of the friends of mine that go into writing, it's because they're not working as an actor, and so they'll
Segue into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so that happens a lot, and I just think that I've been.
Are you writing for the fun of it, or are you
Yeah.
writing because you really want to sell this project?
No, I never think
Okay,
like that. I
okay.
write what I want to write, and I sometimes even resent getting notes, which is not good for a writer. That'll tell you exactly, how limited I am and why I don't sell stuff.
I didn't want to say it, but maybe you should write to sell something.
I know. That's what, believe me, my friends, I've got friends that sell stuff all the time, and they're like, Tim, you should be trying to, and it's like.
But with acting, if someone came up and gave you a note and it was a note, you probably would just go,
I welcome
just
it.
fine.
I'll try
Yeah.
it.
So
Absolutely.
may I ask, you have a psychology background as well. What is it about the writing that is more precious than the acting?
I think that it's
Or
just that
less
I want
open to notes.
I want to write what I want to write.
Oh.
And sometimes when you get notes from, somebody and you just think, okay, I'll try that. And you try it, and it just makes it the project that you were writing and trying to create becomes something that you didn't want it to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's happened a couple times. But then also, I think that I always write and I enjoy it and all that, but it's because I like to do what I like to do. I've never been in well, that's not true. That's not true. I've been in a writer's room, and I actually like that because I like being in a group of people and throwing out ideas. I've done that a couple times, but it's not something I ever wanted to pursue. Whereas I've had friends who they like just as much being a writer on a show, and as
like
they
the-
do
you like the
acting,
performance.
and I like to
Yeah,
perform
yeah.
it. I like to act.
Right.
Yeah. You know who writes stuff to sell? George Clooney.
Oh, George Clooney. Yeah,
I know.
He writes stuff all the
A
time.
lot of people write stuff to sell. I know. Here's the thing. If any one of those one-person shows had sold, I would have been thrilled. But when you try for several years to,
Were they filmed or were they like plays?
No, they were
They're-
staged.
Okay.
And when you try to sell something and it's met with resistance, for me as a writer, it's so much energy and time put into that. And then to not say like, yes, we want to do that. I don't know. I just kind of got where I was tired of kind of trying to sell stuff and nobody buying it. And so that's kind of, for two of them, I got a holding deal, but they never made them.
Right.
And then on one of them, they wanted me to go back, and that one was about me losing somebody that died, and they said I lost a partner during AIDS, and that's kind of what it was about. And I remember HBO saying, "Can you make it not be that?" And so I went back and wrote it as a pilot where the
that's
whole
what it's about.
all the same stuff, but I was going home because my father was dying, and then they said, well, okay, we're getting closer, and then they wanted me to add this and take out this character and do this, and then it became completely
Completely different,
unrecognizable. And then the bottom line was, they said, well, who do you see playing the lead? And I said, me. And they said, well, this was, again, a different time in our history. Now we have a lot of people that write and star in their own things. Back then they said, well, you can't write and then star in it. And they were like, you can't do that. You have to think of somebody. And I just remember thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. And I said that. I said, I don't want to do this anymore. And I said, sorry, I'm just going to. And I remember going to the elevator and the person representing HBO saying, don't be upset. And I said, I'm not upset. I just feel like I keep
exhausted.
I keep giving away what I want this to be, and I don't want to do it anymore.
And now it's not even for me.
Yeah, and now it's not even for me. So we're just not on the same page,
Right.
and I don't want to do it anymore. So I think that's why I kind of stopped writing and
Okay.
selling.
All right. Good to know.
Anything you're excited about as far as like what's coming up or what you're working on now?
Well, I I know I'm going to be shooting some more episodes of Grace and Frankie. We were right in the middle of shooting the last season when the pandemic hit, and we're going to pick that up, I think, in June. That's what they're talking about.
That's Netflix, correct?
Yes.
Where do they shoot?
Paramount.
Paramount.
And then I've been doing, during the whole pandemic, I've been doing a really fun animated show for Fox called The Great North.
Oh, cool.
And so I know I've got 3 of those episodes coming up this week that I'm going to be shooting. And I did a show called Call Me Cat, and I had a good time on that. And, you know, we're waiting to hear if there's a pickup for that. And
That's the one with
Mylene
Mylene
Bialik.
Bialik, yeah.
Wait, say her name again?
Is it Mylene? I don't know
Well,
how to
just
say
say it. Commit to it. Like,
No,
just
I
say
can't.
it.
I can't. We're going to edit that part out anyway.
It's Mayim Bialik.
Yeah,
But I
yeah, sure.
really wanted to hear you, Debacle.
Dude, this guy reads at a 3rd grade level. Like, you've seen him at the restaurant, right?
It is true. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah, so
Do you like doing the voiceover stuff?
Yeah, it's really easy. The beautiful part of that is they sent me equipment and I just do it at home. I have a microphone and headset and stuff. I plug it into my computer and I just do it at home, and it's fantastic because I don't even have to wear pants.
That's how I do all my voiceovers.
That's how we're
Because I
doing.
have really nice calves.
That's how we're doing the podcast.
Boy, he's really selling his calves.
Yeah, I actually don't have pants. For all you listening, good for you. What is there something you want to talk about that we haven't brought up yet? This is your chance to be on a soapbox and pontificate.
Anything that I think that we hit a lot of good stuff in there.
Stuff.
Ooh, well, no.
What?
I was gonna say,
Is there anything you guys want to know?
well, so you've been out here working for a while and doing really well, and you've kept yourself pretty, I would say, from how I know you, pretty healthy. You know, no lawsuits, scandal, drugs. There's a lot of things that broken
in all
relationships.
aspects.
There's a lot of things that can go wrong. What are a few things you've done to kind of keep you
Grounded.
grounded,
Yeah.
from falling off the ledge?
I think that, well, there are several things. Wow, this is a question I've never been asked before, but I think one thing that I'm very grateful for is being a part of the Groundlings really helped me. It gave me a community of people, so I never feel alone going through this process. And then also, I've just got some really good friends that I've known forever, and I'm close with my family. And I think this is kind of odd to even talk about, but I have kind of a strong spiritual life. You probably don't even know this, but I feel like for
Talked
me,
a little bit about faith.
I feel very much like I operate from a place of gratitude and forgiveness and all that kind of stuff, and that helps me in this business. I feel very connected to my friends' success. I feel loved by people and my family. And I remember during the 80s and 90s, when I was going to church, all the churches kind of said, like, you know, they were all against gay people. They were very, you know, unanimous in saying that, you know, connecting gay people with murderers and pedophiles and sinners. And now a lot of the churches are much more inclusive. But in the 80s and 90s, all the doors were closed to me there. But I still had this feeling that I wanted to, you know, have this idea of God. And so for me, it's very personal and very much private. You should probably cut all of this.
No, this is good.
Stuff. Why
Yeah.
do you feel bad about it?
But it's just very personal and private, and I do it without consulting churches or other people's ideas of how to interpret religion or God. And so I've kind of found a way that I feel that spiritual support
Right on.
without the use of other people's opinions in a pulpit. So that's one thing that's helped me, is just having that private kind of confidence and faith. Yeah, I also think that it's imperative in Los Angeles. It's a very big city, and people can feel very isolated. And I think that it's really important to have friends, and if you can have family around you, that's great. But I don't have family out here, but friends and
you
people.
You found a community of people that you can rely on, and also you need them and they need you.
And that you feel loved and supported, and I can go to somebody and say, you know, this is happening. I don't know. I just think feeling that sense of community is imperative in Los Angeles.
Because
it's big city, but it's very small.
Lonely sometimes. It can feel very, very pulled apart, and like I don't know anybody.
Well, you know me. You know me. You can always place a phone call. I'll be your friend. You know, I remember during the pandemic, while I was sitting at home just eating and watching everything on TV, I had a lot of coconut cake anyway.
Okay.
And pizzas and ice cream. But anyway, my point is that during that period, a good friend of mine, Tony, got together a group of people, and we would play this mafia game on Zoom a couple times a week.
I actually know the Tony you're talking about.
Yeah?
Sepulveda?
Yeah. And so there was a group of us, and we would get together and play mafia, and it very much kept me feeling connected, even though I didn't really, go far from my place for a year. I felt very much connected to these people, and I would look forward to that social exchange. And I just think that I've been grateful for that as well, because not everybody has that. Yeah. Not everybody is sharing their space with a roommate or, a partner or a family. So for me, I'm grateful for my friends like that.
Right. Well, that's kind of how we started this podcast and built this space, is because quarantine, friendships, we wanted something to do that kept us creative and active and not just like miserable during COVID. And it's been probably like one of the biggest blessings of 2021.
Yeah,
for sure.
Gave us something creative to do, and with people we want to do it with.
And now look, you have a hat and a sweatshirt.
That's it.
Wait, the goal was not to get a hat and a sweatshirt.
And a trunk. You've got a trunk.
Our goal was to get George Clooney on the podcast, and it happened.
I'm extremely disappointed that George was not here today.
But I'm a very good second.
His doesn't look anything like him.
I'm a very good second.
Ocean's 22. Can't wait for it to come out.
Oh, God, that's so humiliating that I said that. But
I think it's great.
The point
it's gonna be deleted in the show.
That's opening the show.
Oh, please delete it.
So the one time I played George Clooney.
No, but you see, I remember when the kid that's playing, he's not a kid, he's like in his 20s, and he is playing, he might be 30, but he's playing the Brad Pitt role. When he called me and he was like this, my initial thing was, that's ridiculous. Like, as a man that looks through life through a comic lens, I thought that is ridiculous. But then the more I thought about it, I thought, the thing that I love about both George Clooney and Brad Pitt is just how confident they are, and how the swag that they have and all that. And I thought, this will give me an opportunity to, as an actor, find that part of me, and so that I can bring that out and play with it, so that if ever I'm in something and I have to
bring
go
the
to
gravitas,
that, I know how to do that.
It's there.
Yeah,
it's already been worked
you see
out.
what I mean? And they don't have to know that it's my idea of what George Clooney is.
Everyone's now going to know.
Well, everyone's going to know now.
No,
So
they will not, because I can promise you it doesn't look anything like him.
We'll be the judge of that. Tim, thank you for coming here today and chatting with us and letting us peek behind the curtain and see into your life, and give us a little insight in some of the choices that got you here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's good to talk to you guys.
Yeah,
congratulations on this. And I hope that I hope that you don't put me in the trunk now after this is over.
No, our hope is that we can do a show with you one day.
Oh, that'd be great.
Because we're really big fans.
I got some notes on your script, though. that I'd like to
By the way, yeah.
Get in line. Get in line.
All right, so for everyone, if you've enjoyed watching another episode of So How'd You Get Here, please hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe. Yeah, I think that's it, and we will see you next week.